Empedocles. When we think of elemental spirits, most of us picture the famous four: the water undine, the earth gnome, the fire salamander, and the air sylph. But unlike the previous family tree, which followed the people who practiced magic or communicated with these beings, this one is different. Because to understand where elemental spirit came from, we first have to follow something much less magical: the elements themselves. That's right. Unlike most of my previous family trees, this one has two main branches. One follows the evolution of elemental beings, while the other follows the history of elemental theory. And one of the most important ancestors of the second branch is the Greek philosopher Empedocles. Around the 5th century BCE, the Greek philosopher Empedocles proposed a revolutionary idea. Instead of believing the universe was made from countless different substances, he argued that everything was built from just four fundamental roots: earth, water, air, and fire. Not elemental spirits, the elements themselves. Mountains, oceans, clouds, plants, animals, even people were all thought to be different combination of these four eternal forces. The idea may sound familiar because it became the foundation for nearly every famous elemental system that followed. Although Empedocles never described gnomes living in the earth or salamanders dwelling in fire, his four element theory gave later philosophers, alchemists, and occultists the framework they needed to imagine exactly that. In other words, if the elemental spirits are the children, Empedocles gave them the world they would one day inhabit. Aristotle. Empedocles gave the world four fundamental elements, but another philosopher believed something was missing: Aristotle. Building upon Empedocles' ideas, Aristotle agreed that everything on earth was made from the four classical elements. But when he looked up at the stars, planet, and heavens, he believed they couldn't possibly be made from the same imperfect substance found below. So he proposed a fifth element: ether, also known as quintessence. Unlike earth, water, air, and fire, ether wasn't thought to exist in rivers, mountains, or forests. It was the pure divine substance that filled the heavens and formed the celestial bodies. While the four earthly elements were constantly changing, Aristotle believed ether was perfect, eternal, and unchanging. If you ever seen modern fantasy featuring light elementals, celestial spirits, astral beings, or creature made of pure cosmic energy, many of those ideas can trace their philosophical roots back to the concept of ether. But just like Empedocles before him, Aristotle wasn't describing magical creatures. He wasn't saying there were spirits of fire or races of air beings. He was trying to explain how the universe itself worked. Yet his ideas become enormously influential. For nearly 2,000 years, philosophers, scholars, and alchemists accepted the five elemental system, and centuries later, one man would take these philosophical elements and finally give them supernatural inhabitants: Proto Indo European nature spirits. Now that we know that the infamous five elements, let's jump to the other side of our family tree and meet the ancestor of the elemental spirits we know and love today: the Proto Indo European nature spirits. Their story begins even earlier with one of humanity's oldest belief systems, animism. Animism is the belief that nature itself is alive. Rivers, forests, mountains, lakes, storms, and even wind were thought to possess their own spirits or spiritual essence. Rather than seeing nature as something lifeless, ancient people believed they shared the world with countless unseen beings that inhabited every corner of it. Around 6,000 years ago, the Proto Indo Europeans inherited this ancient worldview. Although they left behind no written mythology, historians and linguists have reconstructed parts of their religion through the myths of their descendants. This reconstruction suggests they believe in sacred rivers, divine waters, sky powers, and supernatural beings connected to the natural world. Unlike the famous elemental spirits we know today, These weren't spirits of earth, water, air, or fire. Instead, they were spirits of places. A river had its own spirit. A mountain had its own guardian. A forest had its own supernatural inhabitants. As the Proto-Indo-Europeans spread across Europe and parts of Asia, these ancient beliefs evolved into many different traditions. Over thousands of years, their descendants gave rise to the Greek, the Roman, the Celtic, the Norse, and the Slavic nature spirits and countless other beings. They weren't elementals yet, but they were the roots from which the elemental spirits family tree would eventually grow. Water nymphs. As we move down the main branch, we begin to see the family tree is split into different cultures. Think of this as nature spirits as the grandparents or even the parents of the famous four elemental spirits we know today. Unlike my previous family trees, where most of the creatures descended from one mythology or a handful of closely related legends, the elemental spirits family is different. It wasn't shaped by a single culture. Instead, it was built from thousands of years of myths across Europe, with each tradition contributing something new before eventually coming together. And one of the most biggest contributors comes from the ancient Greece, the water nymphs. The Greeks didn't believe there was just one type of water spirit. Instead, they imagined an entire family. Naiads watch over rivers, lakes, springs, and fountains. Nereids protected the Mediterranean Sea, while Oceanids were connected to the great waters of the world. Each body of the water was believed to possess its own divine guardian, giving nature a living personality rather than treating it as something lifeless. These spirits were usually portrayed as beautiful young women who lived within their waters. They could bless travelers with fresh water, protect sacred places, or punish those who polluted or disrespected their domains. Although generally benevolent, they could also become dangerous when angered, reminding people that nature deserved respect. Sounds familiar? A supernatural being deeply connected to water, beautiful, mysterious, and powerful. While Greek nymphs weren't water elementals in the modern sense, they established many of the characteristics that later inspired them. The dwarves. Unlike the small, friendly miners often seen in modern fantasy, the dwarves of Norse legend were master craftsmen born from earth itself. According to the Post Edda, they emerged from the flesh of the primordial giant Ymir and lived beneath mountains and deep underground. There, they forged legendary treasures including Thor's hammer Mjolnir, Odin's spear Gungnir, and the magical ring Draupnir. Because of their deep connection to stone, metal, caves, and hidden riches beneath the earth, dwarves became closely associated with the underground world. While they weren't earth elementals, they embodied many of the same qualities that later become linked to them: guardianship of the earth, mastery over minerals, and an almost supernatural bond with the land itself. If the Greek water nymphs helped shape our image of supernatural beings tied to water, then the dwarves helped shape the image of supernatural beings deeply connected to the earth. Their rule as mysterious underground inhabitants would become one of the defining traits carried forward by later traditions in the elemental spirit family tree. Animoi. Next, we return to the ancient Greece to meet the rulers of the sky, the Animoi. Unlike the miniature spirit, the Animoi weren't anonymous guardians of the wind. They were four divine personification of the cardinal winds, each with its own personality and purpose. Boreas ruled the cold north wind, Cyperus brought the gentle west wind of spring, Notus controlled the hot southern storm of late summer, and Urius governed the often unpredictable east wind. To the ancient Greeks, the wind wasn't just moving air. It was a powerful force directed by the supernatural beings. Sailors prayed for favorable winds, farmers depended on seasonal breezes, and violent gusts were seen as a sign of divine power. Although the Animoi were gods rather than elemental spirits, they established one mythology's earliest and most influential connection between supernatural beings and the element of air. Their mastery over winds, storms, and the atmosphere helped shape the enduring idea that the sky itself could be inhabited by powerful unseen beings. a concept that would continue to evolve throughout the elemental spirit family tree. Salamander. Our next ancestor isn't a spirit at all. It's a real animal that became one of the mythology's greatest misunderstandings, the salamander. The ancient Greeks and the Romans noticed that salamanders often emerged from damp logs thrown into the fire. Since the animals hid inside rotting wood, it looked as though they had crawled straight out of the flames. This strange sight gave rise to an enduring legend. Writers like Aristotle and later Plenty the Elder described the salamander as a remarkable creature associated with fire. By the Roman period, it was widely believed that its body was so cold and moist that it could survive intense flames and even extinguish a fire simply by crawling through it. Of course, none of this was true. Salamanders are amphibians and prolonged exposure to fire is fatal to them. But myths often begin with misunderstood observation of the natural world. Over the centuries, the salamanders become one of the Europe's most recognizable symbols of fire. Long before it became associated with elemental magic, it had already earned a legendary reputation as the creature that could live among the flames, making it a vital branch in the elemental spirit family tree. Of course, these aren't the only mythical beings that help shape the elemental spirit family tree. If I covered every single one, the video would probably be several hours long. So I focus on some of the biggest and most influential branches. There are still countless of others, including the Celtic underground fairy tradition, Roman nature spirits, Slavic spirits, and many more, each adding another piece of the puzzle over thousands of years. But hopefully, you can already see the pattern. Although these creatures came from different cultures, they all shared one thing in common. They were supernatural beings deeply connected to the natural world. Together, they laid the mythological foundation that would eventually shape the elemental spirits we recognize today. Don't worry though, if you really like to dive deeper into these fascinating creatures, I've actually made a separate video exploring every elemental spirits from mythologies around the world. I'll leave a link in the description below. Now let's return to the major branch of our family tree. The branch that wasn't about mythical creatures, but about the elements themselves. With just one more step, the two branches of our family tree are finally about to meet. The alchemist. Before we meet one of the most important people in this entire family tree, we need to talk about the people who took the theory of elements and tried to put it into practice. Alchemists. For centuries, alchemists studied the ideas first proposed by philosophers like Empedocles and Aristotle. They believed that earth, water, air, fire, and later ether were not just abstract concepts but the foundation of natural world. By understanding these elements, they hoped to uncover the hidden laws of nature itself. Many people think alchemists only wanted to turn lead into gold, but their ambitions were far greater. They experimented with minerals, metals, plants, medicine, and chemical reaction, believing that mastering the elements could reveal the secret of creation. Their work blended philosophy, early science, religion, and mysticism into one extraordinary tradition. And this is where our family tree takes fascinating turn. For nearly 2,000 years, the four elements remained just that, elements. They explained how the universe worked, but they had no official inhabitants. Until one alchemist asked a question no philosopher had ever answered. If earth, water, air, and fire make up the universe, who lives inside them? That question would forever change the history of elemental spirits and give birth to the four legendary beings that still dominate fantasy today. Paracelsus. Now we arrive at one of the most important figures in our entire family tree, Paracelsus. For thousands of years, the two branches of our family tree had grown separately. One branch has filled with nature spirits from Greek, Norse, Celtic, Roman, and countless other traditions, and other followed the philosophy of the elements beginning from Empedocles and later expanded by Aristotle. Then during the 16th century, a Swiss physician, alchemist, and philosopher named Paracelsus brought those two worlds together. In his work, proposed that each of the four classical elements was inhabited by its own race of supernatural beings. Earth was home to the gnomes, water to the undines, air to the sylphs, and the fire to the salamanders. Paracelsus didn't claim to invent nature spirits. Instead, he took centuries of myths, folklore, and philosophical ideas and organized them into a single elemental system. Water spirits that had appeared as nymphs in Greek mythology, underground beings from Northern European tradition, legends of fire salamanders, and beliefs about invisible spirits of the air were now grouped into one unified framework. This became one of the most influential ideas in Western fantasy. Although many people today assume these four elemental races come from ancient mythology, they are actually Renaissance creation built upon much older traditions. Nearly every modern elemental spirits from fantasy novels and role-playing games to anime and video games owe something to the system that Paracelsus created. In many ways, he didn't begin the family tree. He brought its many branches together into an elemental family we recognize today. Undine. But why did Paracelsus propose this elemental spirit in the first place? And what were they actually supposed to do? Let's begin with the first elemental spirit, the Undine. According to Paracelsus, Undines were the elemental beings of water. Unlike the Greek water nymphs that inspired them, Undines weren't guardians of a particular river or lake. Instead, they represented the element of water itself and were believed to inhabit oceans, rivers, springs, and every body of water throughout the world. Paracelsus described them as intelligent human-like beings who live entirely within their own element. In his philosophy, each elemental race possessed a physical body but lacked an immortal soul, a unique idea that set them apart from both humans and angels. He believed an undine could obtain an immortal soul only by marrying a human. To alchemists and Renaissance scholars, undines weren't simply mythical creatures. They symbolized the hidden life and the spiritual essence of water, representing its constant movement, adaptability, and mysterious nature. Whether or not anyone believed they truly existed, the Onden became the perfect embodiment of water itself. And from this point on, the image of the graceful water spirit would flow into centuries of folklore, fantasy, and modern fiction, becoming one of the most recognizable elemental beings ever imagined. Gnomes. Next are the elemental spirit of earth, the gnomes. According to Paracelsus, gnomes were intelligent beings that lived deep beneath the ground, moving through solid earth as easily as humans walk through air. Hidden from the surface, they were believed to guard the treasures buried within the world, including precious minerals, gemstones, and other underground riches. Like the Undines, gnomes weren't simply magical creatures. They represented the very essence of their element. To Renaissance alchemists, they embodied the stability, endurance, and hidden mysteries of the earth. Their secretive nature reflected the fact that greatest treasure often lie unseen beneath our feet. Paracelsus also believed that, like the other elemental beings, gnomes possess physical bodies but lack immortal souls. They existed within the natural order, completely bound to their element. Although later folklore would transform them into friendly garden gnomes and fantasy miners, the original gnomes were mysterious elemental beings whose purpose was to personify the power, permanence, and concealed wealth of the earth itself. Sylphs. If you ever wonder why the wind seems to come from nowhere and disappear just as quickly, Renaissance scholars had an answer. The sylphs. Paracelsus described sylphs as the invisible inhabitants of the air. Unlike gnomes hidden beneath the earth or undines dwelling in water, sylphs were almost impossible for humans to see. They were believed to soar effortlessly through the sky, riding the winds and moving with incredible speed. Air itself was their natural home. To alchemists, sylph represented far more than the wind. They symbolized freedom, movement, intellect, and unseen forces constantly surrounding us. Just as air is invisible yet essential for life, sylphs embodied the world that could be felt but rarely observed. Paracelsus also believed they possess physical bodies, yet like the other elemental beings, they lack immortal souls. Over time, the image of the graceful, almost ethereal air spirit evolved into one of the fantasy's most recognizable archetypes. Whether appearing as winged spirit, invisible guardians, or masters of the sky, nearly every modern air elemental carries echo of the mysterious soul. Elemental fire spirit salamanders. Last but certainly not least, we have the most misunderstood of the four elemental spirit, the salamanders. Unlike the real amphibian that inspired their name, Paracelsus describes salamanders as being made entirely of fire. They weren't lizards that live in flames, they were the living essence of fire itself. Just as fish belong in water, salamanders were believed to exist naturally within blazing flames without being harmed. To Renaissance alchemists, fire was more than heat. It was the force of transformation. Fire purified metals, separated impurities, and drove the alchemical process that sought to uncover nature's hidden secrets. Salamanders became the perfect symbols of that power, representing the living spirit behind every flame and every act of transformation. Among the four elemental beings, salamanders embodied energy, change, and destruction that could also lead to creation. Without fire, an alchemist's furnace was useless, making salamanders inseparable from one alchemist's most essential elements. Even today, when fantasy portrays fairy beings born from flames or molten lava, they continue to reflect the same enduring idea that fire itself is alive. Dungeons and Dragons. Paracelsus had given the world his four elemental beings, but for centuries, his ideas remained largely within alchemy, natural philosophy, and esoteric traditions. During the 19th century, movements such as Theosophy and the Border Occult revival renewed interest in elemental beings. Drawing heavily from Paracelsus and other esoteric traditions, occult writers describe elementals as unseen intelligence inhabiting nature, helping preserve and spread the concept far beyond Renaissance alchemy. Then come one of the biggest turning points in the modern history of the elemental creatures, Dungeons and Dragons. First published in 1974, the game introduced millions of players to the Earth Elemental, Water Elemental, Air Elemental, and Fire Elemental. Powerful creatures that literally embody the four classical elements. While elementals had appeared in earlier occult writings and fantasy literature, Dungeons and Dragons became one of the most influential works to popularize this interpretation in modern fantasy. Unlike Paracelsus' gnomes and ondines, sylphs, and salamanders, these beings weren't simply inhabitants of the elements. They were the elements themselves, taking physical form as living rock, raging fire, rushing water, and swirling air. The game's enormous success helped establish this image for generation of fantasy fans. Its interpretation has since appeared in countless tabletop games, novels, films, and video games, becoming one of the defining portrayals of elementals in popular culture. Modern elemental spirits. And that brings us to today, modern elemental spirits. If you've watched fantasy movies, played video games, watched animes, or read fantasy novels, chances are you've encountered them. Towering giants made of stones, living flames that crouch everything in their path, humanoid waves crashing across the battlefield, or spirits that ride the wind like invisible guardians. At first glance, they may seem like entirely modern creation, but now you know their story goes back much farther. Their roots begin with animism, which ancient people believed every river, mountain, forest, and storm possess its own spirit. As civilization grew, those beliefs evolved into the nature spirits of Greece, Rome, the Celtic world, and the Norse. Meanwhile, philosophers like Empedocles and Aristotle sought to explain the universe through the classical elements of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. For centuries, those two family lines grew separately. One gave us the spirits, the other gave us the elemental theories. Then, during the Renaissance, Paracelsus united them into the four famous elemental beings: gnomes, ondines, sylphs, and salamanders. Centuries later, Occult tradition preserved those ideas while Dungeons and Dragons helped introduce a new generation to towering beings that literally embodied the classical elements. From there, the concept is spread across fantasy literature, tabletop games, films, anime, and video games, inspiring countless of new interpretations. And just like that, the family tree continues to grow. Every new fire spirit, water guardian, earth giant, or air elemental imagined by modern storytellers becomes another branch on the tree whose roots stretch back thousands of years. From the ancient beliefs to philosophy to mythology to alchemy to modern fantasy, this is the story of the elemental spirit family tree. If you enjoyed this journey through mythology, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which mythological family tree you'd like to see me explore next. Until next time.